What's up gamers, DreamcastGuy here, talking today about the upcoming PlayStation 4 exclusive Days Gone, because this weekend I finally got a chance to play it. They actually had one of the first demos ever available on the floor at Pax South 2019, so I stood in line for a couple hours just to make sure I got some real hands-on with it. Now, something I do want to say up front is that they would not allow me to directly capture gameplay for some reason, so instead what you're seeing is all recorded off the screen. But thankfully, my cameraman Jocelyn is absolutely amazing. There were two separate demos that you could play, one that was more focused on story, and the other one a little bit more centered on combat. Let's start off with the story one though, because to be quite honest, I was the most worried about the plot. From the initial trailers, Days Gone seemed like just another big, boring zombie survival game where you'd be dealing with the shambling undead. But now that I've played it, these things are definitely not zombies. The developers kept saying that these things are called freakers, they're not the undead, and now that I've actually played it, I can definitely see that for myself. The story mission that I was playing through is one where the main character's bike has been broken down. It's missing its carburetor, and so him and another one of the heroes have decided to stop in at a bike repair shop so they can get the motorcycle pieces necessary to repair his vehicle. Obviously, right? But here's the thing, it is completely infested by the freakers, and during the cutscene, you really see a fact that these things are living creatures. They kind of look like meth heads that just discovered crack. I mean, they are super creepy looking, but they're definitely alive. When you hit them, they definitely bleed, they definitely are gooey, and they definitely fall over and become actually dead. But I still don't think that they're very smart, and the reason I say that is, in all the times I've been fighting these things, they were very, very slow, and while they were aware of their environment, it's hard to really say that they're scary individually. It seemed like, while a game like The Last of Us manages to make every single one of the shambling monsters you fight feel scary because they're strong, these ones really aren't. They're actually incredibly weak. The main objective of this little storyline mission here was to try and creep along through this series of buildings, gathering supplies to later craft stuff with, and of course get the motorcycle part. But as I was going along, I noticed that the button setup is very, very strange. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff like an ability to slow down time, to do quick shots, you can make all sorts of explosives. I mean, there is a lot of different stuff in this game that I don't think will ever be used. There's also a little bit of the problem that I noticed a lot of stuff is all mapped to one button, like shooting your gun is R2, but so is swinging your bat. So the first time I was trying to really creep up on one of these things, I just accidentally bashed it in the head without even realizing it. Like right here, I saw this freaker trying to climb up the side of a building like Spider-Man, so I followed him up there, bashed him in the head, and then several more came up, and when I tapped R2, not only did I swing the bat, it automatically homes in. It seems like I'm swinging these perfectly aimed shots, but I'm not. This is just pressing R2. It like sucks your bat into every hit. And this sort of brings me to my earliest fear, which is that this game doesn't exactly have any weight to it. Everything feels like you're just seeing a silent cartoon from the 20s. It doesn't really have that impact or that gravitas. And so because of it, I kind of never really felt scared because these things are just basically made out of cotton candy. The controls are going to suck me into a punch, perfectly timed every single time, without any real dramatic input by me. With that being said though, I do think that the graphics are pretty neat. I mean, they're not as sparkly as the trailer showed off, but I think that there's a nice, real, deliberate style to things. When I'm trying to sneak up on one of these zombie-looking creatures and stab them in the back of the head, I can really notice all the great details of the environment. Swaying grass, broken pieces of sharded glass on the ground, and trying to open up cabinets to get items. That's all neat. But the biggest thing about this first demo that really impressed me was the story itself. The demo ended with my buddy actually getting captured by humans that seemed like they were crazy. Now, there's no subtitles in this video, so I'm just gonna have to explain what they were saying, but they were talking about the fact that they were angry that he had tattoos. They were talking about the fact that he was somebody who loved the old world. It seems like these are cultists that actually worship the fact that downfall has happened, that society has crumbled, that we're now in a post-apocalyptic era. They're not exactly people who love the idea of freakers. Instead, they relish the idea that the government has fallen and now everybody has reverted back to their animal instincts. And so because of this, they ended up torturing him by trying to burn his tattoos off with a blowtorch. It is a very graphic scene, but it ends very anticlimactically, which is that as soon as this cutscene concludes, as you can see, I just pop, shot all three of these dudes because they didn't even fight back. I mean, they have guns. These are intelligent humans to some extent, and they did nothing. It makes me wonder what is going on with the AI in this game. That's by far my biggest issue, is that it seems like everybody reacts so slowly, if they react at all. Everybody is just constantly trying to sit there, think about stuff, and then eventually do an action. I want things to be really fast and really scary. If this game is actually supposed to be spooky and give us the creeps, why is it not able to actually achieve that? So this demo ends with you guys getting on a bike and riding away from a horde, which is a huge swarm of the freakers, which leads very nicely into the second demo, which was much more combat focused. So in this one, you are just dropped next to a huge ditch that is filled with hundreds and hundreds of freakers. At this point, one of the Sony people actually came up and had to explain all the additional buttons to me, because there are actually these weapon wheels that allow you to craft different items and also place different styles of device, because there's actually explosive devices and distraction devices along with all your typical weapons like grenades, shotguns, handguns. This is very, very neat, but something that I've really kind of caught me off guard here is that this section is about 1,000,000 times harder. I did not beat it, and I just want to show you that over and over again, I died relatively quick. The idea behind it is that you're supposed to apparently sort of drag the horde by all these explosives. Like, basically you need to do things like set one of your trigger proximity mines onto a gasoline can, so when the zombies go past, they're blown up limb by limb. Or right here, I managed to blow up these logs, and it rolled down and crushed about 80 of these guys right there, and it was pretty neat. These times right here are pretty cool. The action is nice and intense. But what's really weird about this is that it's very clearly programmed so that if 3 of the zombies touch you simultaneously, it just ends. I know I keep saying zombie instead of freaker, but these things act a lot like zombies. So when you get touched by the freakers, each individual one does not seem to do very much damage, but if you get touched by a couple, the game just gives you a game over. It immediately ends it. The overall strategy here was clearly to try and use a combination of your big explosives, your different heavy machine guns and stuff, and also the different vehicles that can all be exploded. But I just couldn't really get a hang of it. I'm not really insulting the controls in that aspect. Obviously, I just picked up the game for the first time ever. I'm not going to be able to take down hundreds of the things simultaneously. My real problem arises with the fact that none of this weaponry, none of these items, none of these kills had a real joy behind it. There's no impact. There's no real weight to have it where this feels like a good time. It doesn't really have that actually pump. Now, when I'm playing something like God of War, part of the reason that combat is so exhilarating is simply because when you're swinging Kratos' axe, it feels like you are connecting with something. You are slamming a weapon into a monster. These things, though, they're just cotton candy. I mean, I'm gonna keep calling them cotton candy zombies, because the second they get touched by anything, they wilt like a flower. I wish that these things were either stronger and there was less of them, or they were smarter. Something to make it where these events felt like they were a little bit more impactful, instead of just trying to make it where I'm constantly having to shift the sea of zombies into the next explosive device. It was neat trying to use my distraction gadgets to draw them into particular targets, or trying to trick the horde to run into itself, and things like that. It's interesting on paper, but I'm not sure I'm really in love with it. Right now, I'm more won over to the idea of Days Gone when it comes to the writing aspects of it, but the gameplay is, quite frankly, very unimpressive. When I was done playing both of these demos at length, I was able to go up and talk to the developers of the game, and they seemed like very nice dudes. A couple of them even knew who I was, and they actually even signed this big poster for me, which is very kind of them. But I'm still just going to say, guys, you need to try and find something that can give this the real punch it desires. Everybody loves to kill big, bad monsters. That is the joy of video games, is being able to be dropped into a chaotic situation and arise as the hero. Days Gone feels like you're trying to be Uncharted, with lots of big dramatic moments, but no real heft, no real punch, no real grit to make it where the grime has meaning. Thanks so much for watching this video, guys. I am going to be reviewing the full game whenever it eventually comes out. I'm still open-minded to it, but the fact that we are just now getting a demo of it this close to release does leave me a little bit worried, and I do very much hope that they have time to try and round this out, smooth the rough edges, and make it so we are as excited for Days Gone as clearly these passionate developers are. Thanks so much for watching, gamers. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. I think I'm going to hang this up in the background. That's actually kind of cool. Yeah, I'll hang it up. It's a signed poster. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.